It's Eve again. It is the 13th of March today. They said May. It definitely is not May yet. Time has not jumped 2 months, although it would be entertaining. Just want to pre-warn, if you can hear lots of noise in the background, my housemate is playing music downstairs. It's quite loud. I will be that person to tell her to turn it off though, because it's her house and it's Saturday morning, right? So we're in a good mood. Today we're going to be talking about Sufjan Stevens, who is, again, one of my favourite songwriters of all time. I love Sufjan. He's great. I'm talking about his album from last year, The Ascension, which I hadn't listened to until yesterday, essentially, because, yeah, wow, didn't know what to expect really, but we'll get into it. So I'd heard this album was quite similar to The Age of Ads, which is my least favourite Sufjan Stevens albums, but as it turns out, it's quite similar to The Age of Ads, but I actually like this better than that album, so there's that. This is a much more polished album, and just better. It's just better. It's better written, better produced, better polished, but all these things. This album is definitely experimental in its production and its how he goes about it. Because normally Sufjan is kind of like a guitar and banjo kind of guy, but this isn't that. And you know what? Like, I like that reinvention. In a lot of ways, his style hasn't really changed that much because he's still got the very emotive songwriting. He's got the very haunting harmonies, all these things he's known for. He still has in this album. It's just the dynamics of it and the sort of instrumentation is different to his usual. Let's mention songwriting for a second, because Sufjan's songwriting previously, especially on albums like Illinois, are quite, I'm trying to think of the word to say, really. Character driven. I would say character driven, right? These aren't character driven lyrics. They're very direct lyrics, but they still sound like Sufjan lyrics. So he does a slightly different thing with them, but not in a jarring way. But the actual music is quite jarring at times, but like in a way that he pulls off. He basically captures like a really, really big atmosphere and sound on this album. And it sounds, you know what, it honestly sounds great. Like, honestly. A lot of this album actually reminds me of We Can Create by Maps, which is, and I don't think it's a very well-known album, but it's one of my favourite albums of all time. And a lot of this album reminds me of that album, actually. Very like wistful, very beautiful at times, obviously quite repetitive, like in its sort of electronic sound, but it kind of, it carries it really well. The album is also quite bottom heavy in its quality, in my opinion. The best songs on the album are the title track, The Ascension, but also Goodbye to All That as well. Just a beautiful track. I mean, honestly. Not to say that the earlier tracks are bad, but I feel like if you listen to the album in its full, which I did, I only did 1.5 times because the album is long, very long. But if you listen to the album sort of in full, like you kind of get a payoff throughout the album. The problem with that, I suppose, is that I don't know whether this would work if you were just playlisting songs, and that kind of remains to be seen. But certainly as an album piece, it works very well. It's a good job it works really well, because goddamn, this album is long. I mean, it's like an hour and 25 minutes. I mean, Illinois is also a similar length, and that's a masterpiece, so I can't be too angry about that. But the last track on the album is like 12 minutes long, and it's fine. It's just like, I know, I moan about album lengths all the time. Attention span, it's not there, okay? I don't know, like, do I prefer this album to Illinois and Carrie and Lowell? No. I'm not going to say no. I do prefer the albums I just mentioned. But do I think Sufjan Stevens is a phenomenal artist and is able to change up the sound like he does and reinvents them in a way? Yes, absolutely. If he puts out an album that isn't my favourite thing in the world and is similar to The Age of Ads, that's fine, because I'm very sure his next album will be completely different again, because that's kind of his thing. The main draw for Sufjan for me is his songwriting, like a lot of singer-songwriters are anyway, and that hasn't become worse, like it's just become different. I would probably listen to this album again if I was in a very brooding and introspective mood, like somewhere. I'm not sure I would play it again, like in the car with my mates or something, but I would play it again because it's Sufjan. Anyway, thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. See you later.